Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 436 of the Stacey West podcast. I am your host tonight, Ben, and I'm joined by Charlie. How you doing, mate? You keeping well?
I'm doing very well. Yes, Happy New Year, everybody, although it does feel a little bit weird saying that on the, 6th of January? But I've not seen everybody since. We've not really spoken, and I've not been on the podcast since, in fact, before Christmas. So I hope everybody had a wonderful festive time of the year. Well, let's be honest, you did, because you're a Lincoln City fan if you're watching this, probably.
Yeah, absolutely ridiculous, really, to be sitting here and saying we've enjoyed Christmas from a footballing perspective as Lincoln City fans. Not very often that we've been able to say that over the past few years, but yeah, very, very enjoyable December and early January. Did you get up to much for New Year's Eve, or did you sort of have a relatively quiet one?
No, so I was abroad. I was away. I was back in Gib for Christmas and for New Year. So New Year's Eve, it absolutely poured it down with rain, torrential rain. Couldn't really do anything, so I ended up popping over into Spain instead, and went into Spain and spent the evening with a couple of friends of mine, and then walked back over the runway. So if anyone has been to Gibraltar, you'll know that if you want to go from Gib to Spain or back or vice versa, you walk over the actual airport runway. So I was walking over the runway at basically just past midnight when all the fireworks were going off, which was pretty cool, if I could see them anyway. But I heard somebody was trying to tell me. I was just head down, trying not to get too wet.
I mean, to be fair, if you're on the Gibraltar airport and you can just hear a load of fireworks going off, does that not just feel like you're in Battlefield?
It certainly does, considering that used to be no man's land as well, as I have been told before. I didn't even know it was fireworks. I just stopped, like chucked myself on the ground, started ducking and rolling, and then people just started calling me a bit weird. I don't know why.
Ah, dear. It's, good to know you had a good time. We had a relatively quiet one, to be honest. Knowing that we had a couple of games in quick succession, we didn't really do a huge amount, but it's been all good fun. I do want to throw out a quick thank you to a couple of people though. The first person, and we have to apologise because Chris forgot your name, but there was a very kind podcast listener that donated a few of the EFL stickers to my sticker album, and Claire as well gave us a few on Sunday's game as well. So very much
funding an addiction. This.
Hey,
it's like giving a cocaine addict.
it's not funding if I'm giving them for free, mate. I'm all fine for that one.
Okay, it's fueling it then. If you want to start getting pedantic like that.
Yeah, all right, they're fueling it, but at least I'm not buying them if that's the case. But no, I'm about 3/4 of the way through now on the book, which is wonderful. What I find amazing is that it used to be swapping all the stickers in the playground, and now it's all in Facebook groups. Like it's.
Oh, how you grow up, eh?
Yeah. Well, I got older. I didn't grow up, did I? Let's be honest.
I think we can see that. Even though you do try and blur it out, we can see all the Lego figures in the background. So I think we can definitely attest to that.
Yeah, well, what are you going to do? So anyway, look.
With that and growing up and getting older, right? Is there anything that is more of like a contradiction from what you enjoy when you're younger than compared to when you're older than snow? I don't know if it's just me, right? But snow starts falling. When you're a kid, you're loving it. You're rolling around. It's the only time that you can just go into the street and start lobbing things at people back and forth, right? But then you get older. It's miserable. It's slippy. The roads are awful. Public transport just grinds to a halt. It's bloody cold. And apparently, if you start throwing snowballs at your boss, that's not appropriate. It's just such a big difference, isn't it, from when you're a kid? I hate it. Bloody hate it.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I suppose a snow day nowadays is kind of, well, everybody works from, most people that are office based can potentially work remotely anyway. So, you're not having a day off anymore. So I guess that takes a lot of the fun out of it, to be honest. But one thing that did not take the fun out of any of our New Year's enjoyment was Sunday. We all kind of thought, going into the game, well, I say we all, one of us definitely didn't, but we were kind of thinking, it's an early kickoff, it's on Sky. That will surely mean that it's going to be a dull and dreary affair against Peterborough. However, one of us in our group rightly remembered that we never have a normal game against Peterborough. And one of us in our group, can't remember who it was off the top of my head, but one of us in our group did have a pretty outlandish prediction for the game on Sunday. Can you remember who that was, Charlie?
Well, I'm actually just going to call somebody out here because I see that they're in the chat. Podcast Mum. I heard that you scoffed at my prediction, I believe was the exact word. Very middle class scoff. But I heard that you scoffed at my prediction. Well, what's that Nigel Farage meme of you're not laughing now? Look, the game and building up to the game, I was very much on Gary's side the other day. I was watching the podcast before the match, and Gary and Chris were talking about the intense Christmas period. Now, I'm not going to go into a full rant like Gary did, but there was a lot of football to be played in a very short space of time. And it was always going to catch up with us and or Peterborough in the game on Sunday. Which again, on Sunday just feels like an awful thing to say when we're talking about football. So a lot of people think that, well, if that's going to happen, it'll be a boring 0-0 or 1-1 draw. For me, it felt the opposite. If we got leggy, it would be our defence that got leggy first because they're the ones that are utter brick walls, which means that we're probably going to get a little bit sloppier. Chances are going to be there to be taken and probably be taken because of the amount that they will get given. And the same for Peterborough's defence to us. I'm just saying, I was right.
There was a point in the game where you were very right, and it annoyed me. It annoyed me massively because, Charlie, for those of you that didn't watch the prediction video, I think me and Gaz both said a 1-1 draw. I think Emily said a 1-0 win, and I think Chris might have gone with a win. And then, Charlie coming in there, sticking his shoes on the table, saying, no, it's going to be 4-2 Lincoln. I thought, bloody hell. That's outlandish. How little we realised at the time, but it certainly didn't feel like it was going to be a 4-2 game, particularly in that first 25 minutes or so. Because I'll tell you what. Let's start with the lineup because it, going into that unchanged from the Huddersfield game, I think it was, wasn't it? There was a small part of me that thought not that long ago, Michael Skubala was saying, we'll be rotating the squad, we'll be, using it to its fullest extent, and there haven't been that many changes over the festive break. So, yeah. Maybe I think I was a little bit surprised to see that there weren't any changes from the Huddersfield game, particularly again because it looked like initially we'd be keeping that that three at the back sort of shape, Charlie.
That's what surprised me more. The personnel that were playing, they didn't really surprise me. You always do expect a little bit of rotation when it is such a busy period of football. But clearly, they all came out of Huddersfield relatively fit, and the key players were subbed at the right time to be able to keep a little bit of fitness going into Sunday. So, as far as I'm concerned, as long as the fitness coaches believe that they're fit enough to play the full match, that's fine by me. But it was, like I said, it was less the personnel that shocked me, more the fact that that same set of players who had played in that 3-back, 5-back, whatever you want to call it, against Huddersfield were starting this game because it likely meant, which it sort of did, which we'll get to in a bit, but it likely meant that we would have started in that exact same formation, that exact same shape. And I was not expecting that at all against Peterborough. I very much expected us to kind of match up against them, go for the 4-2-3-1, and go back to what obviously has worked for us many times so far this season. Granted, both formations have worked for us at different times this campaign. But yeah, I was really, really surprised to see us stick with that shape. On paper anyway.
Yeah, it felt weird, and I think given how given how the game turned out, I think for 25 minutes, I don't think it's unfair if we say it didn't really work all that well. Because for that first 25 minutes, Peterborough they just looked very good. I think they gave that back line a real torrid time. I don't think it's out of bounds to say that Riley Towler had a tough time of it. I think Tendai looked a little bit shaky in that first 25 minutes. And then, I'll be honest with you as well, I don't necessarily think it was, Tom Hamer's best half an hour of football that he's had for us so far this year. It was just I don't know whether we looked poor, whether Posh looked good, or whether it was a combination of the two. Because I think, you started to think, is this the sort of leggy feeling that we were a bit worried about, or whether were we just maybe not fully switched on? I mean, how did you see that initially?
I thought it was more us looking poor. Posh looked like you expect Posh to always look in the way that they were playing their football. They were trying to play it out from the back. We were giving them the opportunity to do so. Our press was nowhere near on it for that first 20 minutes. And we did make them look good, because we've had teams come to Cinderbank, play, that style of football, that style of sexy football, playing out from the back, playing it through the thirds and making chances out of nothing like that. And yet we've still looked better than them because of how kind of grounded our defence is, how our press is, and how we kind of stop them from being able to fully work it all the way through to from one box to another. But Peterborough were doing that same style of football, and it was working. They were getting the chances from the end of it, and that was not like us at all. They had possession of the football. That means nothing from a Lincoln point of view, because we often give up possession. But what we often do is start games well, start games on the attack, start games with a high level of intensity, and that just wasn't there. We were very, very sloppy at the back. We gave away the ball too many times. We didn't capitalise when they gave the ball away. We won. We hardly won any of those second balls, and it looked like we were potentially in for a little bit of a long afternoon for the first 20 minutes. They had good chances at the start. Like Brandon Keller, who is a good player, by the way. There was rumours that we were supposedly in for him when he went to Posh. Now, obviously, whether there's any truth in that, I don't know. But he's a good player, and he got kind of the first big chance with a really, really nice shot, to be fair, from the edge of the box that just went wide of the post.
Wasn't too far away, was it?
No, I'd like to think that Wickens would have got there, to be fair, because he was fully outstretched. But again, it was just full Peterborough for that first 20 minutes in particular.
Yeah, definitely. I think there was a moment before the goal as well. I think it was Lisby getting down, beating. Well, I think he made 3 defenders look like they weren't there. With some really, really clever footwork, and that led to another chance which kind of just flashed wide. I think it was Garbutt at the end that didn't quite get his foot on it. But it just felt, at that point, it felt like we were maybe in for a bit of a long afternoon. We, like you say, we hadn't started well. We didn't particularly have the impetus that we normally have. We just thought, oh Christ, this is going to be tricky. And then their goal, and it felt. And I'm going to contradict myself when we come to the second goal, because we've both got opinions on their second goal. But for that first goal, it felt again like it was just an annoyingly well-worked goal. That teams, for the most part, it feels like teams actually need to be decent to score against us. Whereas a couple of seasons ago, there was the odd silly mistake involved, that it would be an individual mistake that would gift a chance and all the rest of it. But particularly, you look at the Cardiff's goal, it was just a wonderful goal that you can't really complain about. And it felt like that was probably the case here as well.
Yeah, their goal, it was really weird. So when you full on watch the highlights back to where they kind of first picked up the ball to start that attack on the halfway line. It was actually from them being sloppy. They had effectively given the ball away to, I think it was Adam Reach. It might have been Rob
Yeah,
Street.
it was Adam Reach. And to be
It was Adam Reach.
To be fair, having just said what I've said, like that there was a little bit of maybe a bit of sloppiness from Reach when he had the ball, and I think either pinged off his foot or he miskicked it. But yeah, to get the ball there, yes, that was maybe an individual mistake. But having said that, the work afterwards felt like it was one of those where they had to work well for it.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that when it got towards the box, because I think we're so good normally at closing down those opportunities, and I just didn't think we looked good at all in doing that, especially at that time. We looked really lethargic. I think it was at the back post where he'd kind of managed to get the ball into the back of the net, and I just thought, I think it was Tom Hamer, or it might have been Riley Towler, actually. He just got the wrong side of him. And I just sort of thought the defending wasn't really on point. It wasn't as bad as the second goal, and we're going to get to that a little bit later on. But I certainly didn't think that the defence kind of shone themselves in too much positive light. And that goal could have changed everything for the game, obviously. It sort of did, in a way, because it was the wake-up call that we kind of needed. We just also needed a quick 5-minute nap in between as well, apparently.
Yeah, so, I mean, let's, the big moment, and I think it was alluded to after the fact that had this not happened, then it might have been a Paul Farman special from George Wickens. But the linesman was injured and had to be replaced. So there was a good 5 to 6 minute break while that all happened. And during that time, that there was all the players were able to get around the managers, and they were able to get some tactical discussions happening. And Andy Debenham says a big shout out to the Lino. Yeah, I think after the game, in the interviews, I can't remember who it was. Oh, it might have been Tendai, actually. Said in his interview, that there was a big conversation from the manager about getting a tactical change made during that break. And at the time, I couldn't really tell what it was, but having watched the game back, and I think Phil puts it well here. This is Freddie dropping about 10 yards back and cutting off the service through their number 4, and they started to struggle getting forward. Basically, all it meant was that the press that we are, so renowned for at this point, we could do it. We could activate that press, and we could really push them and play the game that we wanted to play. And sure enough, within a couple of minutes, because there's 9 minutes between the two goals, right? But how many minutes of that was taken up by the linesman? I'll be honest, I tried to find out literally as we were about to go live, but they've cut the bit where the linesman was injured out of the full match replay, so I don't know. But yeah,
it certainly didn't feel long, did it? It really did feel like we immediately came back. And I think at first, when we kind of scored the equaliser, first of all, I'm thinking, hey, this is goals. This is great. This is exactly what I was predicting. But the other part of me was like, okay, but is this a flash in the pan sort of thing? Or have we actually made changes? Because we know what our coaching staff can do. And let's not pretend like Skubala's never received criticism for some of his in-game decisions, because he has. And do you know what? Some of them have been fair. I've thought at times he's made either the wrong substitutions, the wrong tactical changes, or they haven't happened when they should have done, or haven't happened at all.
Yeah, that's fair.
And you're going to get that with every single manager. But what we're finding at the moment, and this season in particular, is that when he does need to make those tactical decisions, they are changing games more than you would ever think they would. Yeah. And it all goes back to Cardiff when we moved into the 3 at the back from the 4 back, and what a difference that made to our setup and the way that we were able to set up against Cardiff. And it happened again on Sunday, where we did start to shift. we kind of went more 4-4-2, as we were sort of saying, in that kind of first period, I felt. And then it kind of shifted so that Tendai could also get up with Adam Reach and go into more of wing-back roles from that point onwards, which is then why we saw Tendai being absolutely everywhere for the rest of the game. So, yeah, those small tactical shifts, without even needing to change any personnel, nothing like that, made all the difference on Sunday.
100%, and I think that's the key thing you've said there, is allowing Tendai Darikwa to get forward and play that more sort of wing back role. I've said he had a dodgy 25 minutes before, the tactical switch. From that point on, he absolutely ran the show. He was involved in pretty much everything going forward, and he looked rock solid at the back as well. I didn't give him man of the match on Sunday, primarily because I thought he had a bit of a dicky 25 minutes at the start, and I thought Conor McGrandles was excellent throughout. However, it was a knife edge between the two. They were, Tendai was absolutely superb from that point on. And it was shown when, he gets forward, and initially I thought he was offside, and then I saw the replay. A friend of mine he couldn't make the game, so he was watching it on Sky, and he sent me the footage shortly afterwards. He's like, "No, he's on." So, okay. I thought he was offside.
I thought he was off. I still think he's off, even looking at the footage. Genuinely.
Yeah, there's a response to that I could use, but I'm not that cruel, Charlie. So yeah, like when the ball goes across, he's onside. He's being played onside by I think it was Lees on the far side of the box. Yeah, clearly being played onside. Gets the ball, pulls it to the edge of the 6-yard box, pulls it back for Rico Hackett, and he's not going to miss from there, is he?
He just passed it into the corner of the net. Like, that's literally all he did. His technique for that first time finish there was absolutely sublime. And again, if we talk about past criticism, it was only Huddersfield where people were saying, God, if only Rico could put away the chances that he was getting, we'd be comfortable in this game, sort of a thing. And what's his response to that? To go and score a goal with such lovely technique like that, and to be in the right place and the right position, and to be perfectly linked up with Tendai for that. So, great finish by Rico. Great work by Tendai. And just really good link up from both of them. And that was obviously the case for most of the afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. And that really started 15 minutes of madness, to be honest. It was just it felt like, again, we've said this quite a lot, and we said this against Huddersfield. We've been in control of a lot of matches, but we've not necessarily been dominating matches. And I think we started to really turn the screw for that last 15 minutes. We weren't. It wasn't free-flowing possession football and all the rest of it. It's not how we play. You look at the stats for the game; it was 68% possession for Posh over the whole game, 32% for us. We that's not the game that we play, and everybody should understand that by now. However, the work rate and the way that we were suffocating Peterborough's chances as soon as we got that equaliser, I just didn't feel like there was anything that would happen other than us getting at least one more goal. And sure enough, it came again from another ridiculous piece of skill from Tendai Darikwa. I mean, he's got 2 Posh players on him. Nice little skill to just get out of the way there. And a ball that I will, let's be honest, he's played in the Premier League. It would not look out of place there. Like, outside of the boot, out to Adam Reach, puts the cross in. Tendai's actually nearly on the end of it himself, but it goes over him, and Freddie Draper missed a chance not that long before this, and in our group chat there was a conversation about he should have buried that one, and then you see Freddie getting into the position that he does, he uses his strength, he uses his ability, and he gets on the end of it and just, notches it in. And again, the argument is there that anybody can finish that chance. Yes, maybe so. But to get into that position to finish that chance, that's some outstanding work from Fred.
I think with that, the biggest compliment I can give Fred for that goal is the fact that if I was a Posh fan, I would be fuming with my defender to get beaten like that at the back post and to be out of strength like that. And that says it all. And, we talk a lot about Freddie's physicality and what he can bring to the team with that. And sometimes, we want to just see him using it to the absolute best of his ability going forward and sort of, not just giving fouls away because he does get really unlucky with rest. But that's what his physicality gives us. It's those kind of opportunities that he can create and kind of get on the end of those balls. And Adam Reach, look, if you're a central striker, you must absolutely love playing with Adam Reach, just knowing that any moment he can put one of the most sublime balls into the box as well. We're after literally the best pass of the season, the best pass I think I've ever seen at Lincoln from Tendai.
Hey, Adam Marriott would like a word.
No, okay, fair enough. But in the league.
All right,
but again, utterly exceptional from Tendai. And then that ball in from Rich. And like I say, that's exactly what Draper does give you. He's going to be able to outstrength defenders. He's going to be able to effectively body them. And provided the referee doesn't decide to blow the whistle unfairly, which, like I say, does seem to happen most games, those are the opportunities he's going to get. And I'm really, really pleased for Freddie that he was able to put that in the back of the net as well. And hopefully that will just be a little bit of a confidence booster. Look, the whole game should be a confidence booster for the whole team. The fact that we put 5 against Peterborough, but just really pleased for Fred.
Yeah, no, 100%. Look, he's had some critics over the past few weeks, and I think some of them have been quite unfair. I think Chris was close to giving him man of the match on New Year's Day against Huddersfield. Some people were criticising him for not scoring. It's one of those where you have to look at what other attributes are being brought, and the roles that people play within the side. It's not all about, if you're a striker, you have to score all the goals. It's not how it works. And it is, depending on how much time we've got, we'll touch on a little bit more of that later on. But just before that goal, as I say, it did start to get towards, a bit of a silly moment. Tendai Darikwa, let's be honest, if you're a fan of Breaking Bad, you will know that there is a lot of stuff called foreshadowing, where something happens and you go, oh yeah. When you watch what happens later on, you look back, you go, oh yeah, that was foreshadowed by that. Tendai Darikwa had an absolute pile driver that was, it went over the bar. But honestly, you watch that, you think, wow, okay, he's got a shot on him as Tendai, hasn't he? And sure enough, anything Adam Reach can do, Tendai can do better.
I genuinely do think that them two are just trying to one-up each other. Because, it's exactly that. We're going to get Darikwa scoring in 3 from 3 now, or whatever it is that Adam Reach has now got, and it's going to be, they're just going to try and constantly one-up each other. But look, that third goal, obviously, first of all, that chance, you're absolutely right, like what a shot that first one was. And it just set up what was the third goal. Again, they were quite sloppy at the back. I don't know who predicted that defences could have been sloppy in that game. Couldn't be me. And then it kind of bounced around a little bit.
To be fair, I think Fred's done some good work to get the ball to Rico Hackett in the first place.
100%.
Admittedly, it loops over, but he's done well. And I think Rico very unselfishly not taking the shot on, realising that Tendai's coming up to the edge of the box, lays it off. And I'm just checking my notes, and the words absolute thunder bastard are written down for the goal, because I don't think it actually hits the floor before it hits the back of the net. It was an absolute pile driver of a shot. And, to get that hard, that fast, and that low down without it skimming off the floor, just a phenomenal goal. Like, and it sent us in at half time going, what has just happened? Because we were dreadful for 25 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, that goal, one of the things that I just want to touch on briefly is Rico laid off Tendai, and it didn't even look like he looked to make the pass. It looked like it was a no-look pass, the way that he was just able to lay off Tendai there. It was like he knew he was always going to be coming into that position. And it's kind of what we alluded to earlier on with their link-up play all game. That epitomised it perfectly. The fact that, like I say, he knew where the skipper would be, and he had absolutely no danger in that. And I totally agree with you. What a strike it was from, again, a right back. Remember, who often feels like our furthest forward player at times. Do you know what? We always talk about like right place, right time when it comes to players. Tendai is the right place every time, and that's what makes him utter class, and just puts him a absolute class above anybody else in the division at right back. Honestly, especially when you do sort of pair him with Adam Reach at left back as well. So yeah, look, I'm totally with you in the sense that 20, 25 minutes, we're kind of head in hands like, oh, this has the potential to be a little bit difficult. Not quite sure if we're going to be able to get back into this before half time. And you're sort of thinking, can we just get to half time even with it just being 1-0? And then we'll try and go back from there. Now, again, it was a game where we went 1-0 down and it didn't phase us at all, which has been one of the biggest sort of attributes of our season. We've been talking the numbers on the podcast quite a lot over the past few weeks. I still don't think we've hit the half an hour mark in terms of minutes that we've been behind.
Particularly if you're counting minutes in play,
exactly.
Definitely not.
Yeah. So what a massive kind of stat that is for us going into the second half of the season, where there have been seasons in the past under different managers, maybe, where we have capitulated the minute that we go 1-0 down. But that's never something that we're going to see under Michael Skibala's Lincoln City. And that just shows the drive and the desire to constantly want to be in the front and the way that the team are playing at the minute. So, yeah, was very, very happy to be going into the halftime break 3-1 up, especially as I was only 2 goals away from my prediction at that point.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'll be brutally honest. Like, I sent a message to our group chat at 1-1 saying, your 4-2 is not looking very likely, is it, Charlie? And that came back to bite me squarely in the arse, I'll tell you that. But, yeah, look, just going in 3-1 up at half-time against Peterborough just felt unrealistic at the start of the game. And particularly after that first 25 minutes, I just thought, how are we going to come back from this? And it was just brilliant. But yeah, we'll discuss the second half in a couple of minutes. We will take a quick break for an advert, and if you're watching on YouTube, then yeah, we'll say hello. So see you the other side of a break.
Just going to answer this one first.
No. But right. Please. I want you to do one thing. I'm going to drop myself out, and I want you to look at the camera and just go, all right, dudes, what's happening?
Why?
Just do it.
All right, dudes, what's happening?
We're going to have to clip that because that is
that good for you?
That is brilliant. Yeah, we'll get Stu on that. We'll get that clipped, and hopefully Roy appreciates what we've just done there.
Right. Okay, got it. Look, yeah, just as a response to that, I can have the light on, but if I do have the light on, then I just end up having a massive glare coming off my forehead. Yeah. So I thought it best to sit in the dark. So yeah.
Oh man,
I was also going to ask what's Red Dwarf, but
Oh, you piece of shit. Anyway, right, let's say hello to people who are in. We've got Devon Imp, Andy Brown is in, evening all. Dave Tuplin was in as well, but his comment has not shown up for some reason. It did show up and then it disappeared. Ollie is in, Ollie H is in, says evening all. Steve, Mr. Barton is in, says hello, fellow imps. Ian at London Imp says good evening all. I was gutted to miss the win against Peterborough. Been stuck in bed with flu since Friday morning. The atmosphere was great at the bank against Huddersfield. Hope you get on the mend soon, Ian. David Ward says evening, what a lovely Christmas period, superb present for all the fans. Dave Sandel says up the imps. Steve Jones, evening all, looking forward to this one. I think we were as well. Weren't necessarily looking forward to things after 20 minutes, but it's all good. Dom's in, evening all. Good evening, everyone from Coningsby, says Roy. Matt Povey 87 is in, says evening all here at 527. See what you did there. The wife's in, says evening Charlie and Benjamin. Richard is in, says evening Worston. Are we taking that one, or are we going to have Ben Ali? I mean, if we take Benali, then there's a football link there, maybe. I don't know. I don't know. John Booth's in, says evening all. Emily is in, says good evening, everyone. Dave Larder's in, says evening, guys. Looking forward to this one. Podcast Mum Leslie is in. How we doing? Gerard's in, says evening all. Dave Sanders says evening all from Coningsby. I nearly said Coventry. Carl is in. Says evening, gents. Emily is saying good evening to her actual mum. Where are we? Harry Jackson's in, saying evening all. What a game! Absolutely. John Booth says, hope you cashed out when you had the chance, Charlie.
Well, so I was telling Ben beforehand, I was really torn at 4-2 going into stoppage time, because on the one hand, I really wanted us to not score, just so I could be really smug on the Man of the Match video and on this podcast with the correct prediction. However, I also had a bet builder where I needed another goal. So I was really torn.
Yeah, fair enough. So. Fair enough. Let's have a look. Ollie Class says, the best thing I've noticed recently is we actually come back from going 1-0 down under Kennedy. If we went 1-0 down, we were going to lose no matter what.
That's very much the comment I was alluding to as well when I
no comment.
I wanted to mention that there was no managers in particular.
But you are correct. Right. Adam Bullsin says, evening all. Says Lisby looks like a good player. Jacob's in. How we doing, Jacob, mate? You well? He's so happy with that game on Sunday. We all were, mate. Just phenomenal stuff. Let's have a look. Margaret's in. Says, evening, gentlemen. Kev McCarthy's in. Says, even's a bit good, isn't he? He's very good. He's very good, Kev. Yeah, Kev sits next to me. And yeah, for the most part, I think the most uttered words from my mouth over the past two games have been, Ivan's very good, isn't he? Let's have a look. Who else is in? I think that's probably going to be about it. Andy does say it's going to be a nightmare choosing player of the season. Absolutely. It's just phenomenal. And Roy was very pleased with the all right dudes or what's happening. So yeah, I'll have to get that clip because that is just, love it. Right. Okay. If we're good, Charlie, we will head into the second half of the game. Let's do it. Beautiful. And thank you very much for that advert. We are now going to go into the second half because, just the most ridiculous end to the first half kind of had us all floating around the game, around the ground rather, at half time. And then not a huge amount really happened. I think Peterborough maybe came out, had a little bit of the better of things. They didn't necessarily dominate, but, we didn't need to push and press as much as we would normally do coming out of the break, being 2 goals ahead. And that kind of led to the absolute antithesis of teams needing to be very good to score against us, with Kyrell Lisby getting a goal off his chest, literally. I think maybe the one moment when you could accuse the lads of going to sleep, possibly, gets Peterborough potentially back in it we'll come on to it. But yeah, it just felt like, oh, okay, well, that's happened, doesn't it, Charlie?
Do you know what? I actually really shocked. I've only just seen that goal wasn't scored until the 56th minute. I genuinely thought it was like the 48th.
Oh yeah, it felt immediate, didn't it? It
felt so quick. Yeah. I think again, when you're kind of 2 goals up, you're riding that high. The time just goes really quick, doesn't it? But there was nothing really beforehand. Like you say, they did kind of come out after half time, were maybe slightly better, but we didn't really need to do too much. And we were, both sides were kind of just settling back into the game. But then, bam, goal. And before we even just talk about the goal itself, like that moment could have been huge for the match, and that was kind of what I was immediately thinking was,
100%.
okay, this isn't going to be a 4-2. This is going to be a 3-all. This is going to be we've been a couple of goals ahead, and we've just let them get back into it, and that's kind of where the mind immediately went, genuinely. And I don't know why, because I shouldn't be thinking that with the season that we've been having, but it was the first thought. And I think, again, kind of playing Peterborough, it's always where your mind immediately goes, is something like that, like it'll fall down. And the goal itself was part of the reason for that. Look, we've mentioned it a couple of times that we may be a little bit sloppy at times in the match, and this was the biggest time. The back post defending was just awful. We just didn't defend the ball at all in the area. Carroll, we never should have had the opportunity to have any kind of a chance on goal, let alone it be with his chest. Tendai just wasn't at it. Tom Hamer kind of got dragged away and was watching his man rather than watching the ball. It was just really poor defending to give them the goal. And I guarantee to you that when the players are back in training, because by all accounts they are currently on a bit of a break, when the players are back in training, that's going to be the very first video that they're shown by the coaching staff. And again, by the way, that will say it all if that is the case.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was I know what you mean. It felt like that could possibly be a bit of a turning point in the game. There would be some moments where you'd previous seasons you'd possibly see us crumbling at that point. But there's something about this Lincoln City team. There's something about this group of players and the coaching staff and, the fans getting involved as well. I can maybe even see a couple of seasons ago, that goal goes in, again, taking it to, 3-2. I could maybe see the crowd starting to potentially turn. But it didn't. We stuck at it, and literally 60 seconds later, Gary mentioned in his write-up, you watch the highlights back, the Posh fans are still celebrating, with the Borough boys making all the noise. Rico Hackett plays a ball into a bit of space. Adam reaches on the end of it. And for his third goal in 3 games, he just slots it really, really calmly into the corner. It was just, if you want the definition of experience and calmness personified, watch that goal, because he could have snatched at it. He could have, swung a leg at it and scored an Adam Reach screamer. But no, he takes his time because he's got the time to do it. I think just pulls it back ever so slightly and takes the defender out of the game and just puts it, just a really, really clever finish from Adam Reach. And then suddenly, bang, that's it, 4-2. We've got the 2-goal cushion again. Charlie's feeling incredibly smug. It just felt bizarre, didn't it?
First of all, it came from Tendai and Rico linking up on that right-hand side again. And that ball from Rico was exceptional as well. Like, it wasn't just the goals that were great on Sunday. It was the assist. It was the passing play when we were at it that was top draw. And that ball from Rico, perfect. But it was only perfect because of Adam Reach's touch on the other end as well. And totally agree with you. A young striker probably doesn't score that, or doesn't have as good of a chance of scoring that as what an old left back does. Like what a mental statement that is. But Adam Reach, totally agree. That was pure class. It was composure to be able to bring the ball down, hold it, take his opportunity, and slot the ball into the back of the net. Really, really well taken goal. And 3 from 3. And it's funny, isn't it, that he bags 3 goals and plays some of his best minutes in an imp shirt just as we've signed a new left back. So do you know what? Even if Josh Hurnahan wasn't injured out for a little bit, I can't see him displacing Adam Reach at the minute, because why would you drop somebody who is in as good a form as what he is? Well, it's not in form, is it? Because that's temporary. Class.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, look, we've not really spoken about any of the players aside from, the ones that have been involved in the key moments so far. But I think we do need to talk briefly about Rob Street, because he was absolutely superb on Saturday. He didn't get a goal, but I think he did just about everything else. He was he was. I think Gary described it as Ben House without being Ben House.
Yeah.
He was all over the place. He was doing those jobs that can go unappreciated if you're not scoring goals. We saw it with Freddie against Huddersfield. He was working his arse off and didn't get the credit from some areas of some areas of the fan base. Rob Street was very much the same on Sunday. I thought he was outstanding from minute 1 to minute 86 when he went off. But yeah, he just looked brilliant. And I think that it feels to me like, if he's going to be going out on the right-hand side, maybe this is probably it's looking like he should be a bit more central at this point, because he was adding so much to what we were trying to do, with the press and with his just off the ball work was fantastic.
We used to say that there's no player like Ben House, and there will never be a player like Ben House, that he is an absolute one of a kind in what he does off the ball. Don't think he is. And that is in no way an insult to Ben House. That is one of the biggest compliments I can ever give a striker at Lincoln City, because I love Ben House. I love the work that he does, an unsung hero. And Rob Street has been doing that work in Ben House's absence, especially over this Christmas period. Totally agree. Like the amount of running that he's doing, but not running for the sake of running. It's pressing when he knows that the ball is there to be pressed. It's closing down the goalkeeper, not just stupidly when the goalkeeper's quite clearly just going to be able to boot it, but closing down the goalkeeper when there are a couple of players also around him and he knows the short ball isn't there. It's cutting the passing lanes between the defenders. If you look at any match and you look at any stats, the most amount of passes in a game are always played between the defenders, especially as you get up the leagues. Rob Street is the sort of player that isn't allowing that to happen with a proper kind of a terrier attitude, the exact same as what we have seen from Ben House before. And look, all of his stats and metrics are starting to back that up now. And now that he's kind of adopting this slightly different style of play than what we've seen from Rob Street before. And that's only his work off the ball. His work on the ball as well is brilliant. I made a joke in the WhatsApp group chat earlier because Chris put some stats in there. I know, shocker, Chris. But Chris put some stats in there about strikers in League One and our strikers compared to a certain striker in League One. But we're not going to get into that because I'm not talking about Paul Mullin on here. So
you said his name.
I have. So one of the stats was about aerial duels and the amount that Rob Street goes up for, and it is a lot, and he wins a lot of them. But the reason that why he goes up for so many probably isn't for balls going into the box from crosses from our wide players. It's because George Wickens, anytime Rob Street is on the pitch, I swear to God, he has a magnet holding above his head so that when George Wickens is taking a goal kick, it comes straight to him. And George Wickens' accuracy to get so many of those onto Rob Street's head is exceptional. And the fact that Street is able to win so many of them as well is exceptional. So his all-round play has really, really improved, even from the start of this season, let alone from beforehand when he was playing in trophy matches for us before he went off to Doncaster. So yeah, been really, really impressed with how he's kind of matured as a forward player. Of course, you're always going to want to see more goals from them. I get that. But you know what? We've got goals coming from all around the team. And he is one of the big reasons why we're getting goals from around the team, why those opportunities are even there in the first place. So, yeah, huge credit to Rob Street and the way that he's been playing.
Yeah, no, 100%. And then a couple of the other performances. I mean, I've mentioned it a little bit earlier. He didn't have a direct input on any of the goals as such, but Conor McGrandles, for me, got my man of the match. He was just outstanding again from 1 to 90. I thought he was superb. Controlling the midfield yet again, making the right passes. I don't think he really put a foot wrong after that sort of 25-minute spell in the first half. Even Varfolomiev, I don't know if I've mentioned it, Charlie, but he's really quite good. He was, again, outstanding. I don't know how Tom Bayliss gets back into this side. And I say that with all the love in the world for Tom Bayliss. Like, Tom Bayliss was one of my players of the season earlier on, and, he's been superb for us. But how does he get back in when Ivan's playing the way that he is?
I had a conversation with somebody at the football back in kind of late November, and they said, "Are you at all concerned that Evans had so few minutes at the time, so few league minutes anyway?" And I said, "No, but ask me again at the end of the season, or in 18 months after he signed, because obviously if it was still the same amount of minutes, quite happily have that conversation." But then I wasn't concerned, and I said, the problem is you can't really drop Tom Bayliss. You can't drop Conor McGrandles, because them two were sort of just fantastic.
They were running the show, weren't they?
They were complementing themselves in midfield as well. They were the perfect duo for what we wanted at that time. And then Tom Bayliss gets injured, and you're like, okay, there's two sides. On the one hand, it's bad. We've lost Tom Bayliss. He's been a great player for the start of the season. On the other hand, okay, here you are, Ivan. Show us what you're made of. And he showed us what he's made of. Like, he stands out in midfield next to Conor McGrandles, and that says a lot about a player this season, trust me, because of how great Conor McGrandles has been. But he does just ooze class when he's on the ball, and he's really kind of working off the ball as well. And you can see improvements game by game from him, learning the English game really, really well and really quickly as well. When you go into the grand scheme of things, it has only been a few months, but the way that he's kind of been able to progress himself, and he does just look a cut above at times. Though I remember back a few years ago, we played Accrington away. We won 3-0 that day, and we were fantastic. And it was an early February, freezing cold, but yeah, we were outstanding. Sean Rowan, I think Ted Bishop got a free kick goal that game. And what stands out, and why I still remember that game so vividly, it was Ethan Aaron's debut. And you watched him glide around the pitch. Again, an outstanding player and somebody that looked a cut above in midfield.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Evan's been doing for the past couple of games as well. He does look like, even if he's not there yet, he looks like he will become a cut above. Because,
100%.
I don't want to kind of hyperbolize over a few matches, but he has looked at a real classy player. And if he carries this on till the end of the season, I'm totally with you. I'm not dropping him. I can't. It's not my decision, but I wouldn't be dropping him. Yeah. And I can't see him getting dropped. And I'll never drop him in any of my predictions for lineups and things like that. Because as it stands, he hasn't put a foot wrong yet. There hasn't even been sloppy mistakes, really, that we've seen from him as much. And, there's been a couple of times this season where you could say that you have seen Conor McGrandles make a couple of sloppy errors. We're not seeing that from Evan. Again, smaller sample size, but it hasn't happened yet.
I mean, the thing is as well, the thing that really, every time I think about, what he's been doing, I just go back to his debut in the Cup. I remember I was watching it, and it was, he made a tackle, or he made a challenge, slid in the penalty area, and won the ball so cleanly that I just thought, if that was literally anybody else on the pitch, that's probably a penalty. And you look at it, you go, okay, he's got that about him. What else has he got? And then every time he's played, we just see something else. His delivery for the free kick the other day, superb. He had a shot the other day. Again, he caught it so sweetly. He's got that in his locker. His passing is just really slick and really precise. I don't want to sit here and hyperbolize and just go, he's the best thing since sliced bread or bottled beer or whatever it is. But he has been very, very good when he started. So, delighted that is the case. And the fact that Tom Bayliss will be coming back in, hopefully, for the run-in, it gives us another option. But Ivan is, for me at the minute, he's probably behind Rico as being the first name on the team sheet for me. But yeah. Shall we wrap the game up, Charlie? Because we do have one more goal to talk about, unless there's anything else from the game that you want to pick up before we come to that?
No. Let's go to the goal.
Well, there we go.
Just perfect way to top it off, really, wasn't it? The absolute cherry on top.
Yeah, Posh get a corner, it gets cleared. Tendai runs to clear it, and his momentum takes him past. I can't remember the player it was that got on the end of it for Peterborough, but it wasn't the best ball back into our box. Tom Hamer gets on it, and I don't think Tom Hamer had his best game for us on Sunday. I'd say that's probably fair. But he plays a really lovely ball to Tendai, who's still kind of stumbling forward, I guess, having jumped for that challenge. And suddenly he finds himself further ahead than anybody else on the field. I wonder how many times he's had a one-on-one in his career as a right back. But that composure, again, we spoke about Reach's composure for his goal. Just so calm. And what a finish, to be fair, as well. He basically sends the keeper the wrong way. Outside, I think just outside the box. Doesn't exactly dink it over the keeper, but he doesn't blast it. He just places it really, really well. That's it. 5-2. I'm delighted because you're not right. Everybody has a good time. We all go home happy.
You say that Tendai may not have had many one-on-one chances. I disagree, because do you know what? He always seems like the player that will be there in the 90th minute on the edge of the box, ready to take the ball up and go and score at the other end of the pitch. Because, again, it's the sort of player that he is, isn't he? He's constantly full of running, even at, 32, 33. And at the end of 90 minutes, after the end of a really intense Christmas period, let's not forget, just to kind of reiterate Gaz's point from the other day, and yet he's still got the energy to be able to take that ball the whole length of the field, and really, really calm and composed finish when he got there as well. So I definitely there's a comment in the chat about obviously him thinking about passing it and things like that, because there were two players there. I think Dom Jeffries on his right that had a really good angle for the goal as well.
Jack Moylan on his left.
Yeah, and both of those players probably would have been praying that he did pass so that they could get their goal to help wrap up the team performance. But no, Tendai was never going to pass that, was he? He didn't even think about it. And I don't even think they would have cared in the slightest, because they would have had as much faith as we did in thinking, do you know what, Tendai? You have to
go for it.
Yeah. And it was like in slow motion. Genuinely, that's what it felt like sitting in the stands. I'm like, I'll pass. Actually, no, go for it. Do you know what? Do it. Bloody hell, shoot. And then he, slots the ball to the back of the net perfectly and being able to get it over the keeper. So really, really pleased with Tendai's whole performance, and the fact that he was able to get a second just to kind of round it off. And do you know what? I think that changed a lot of people's minds in terms of their man of the match as well, because so much of it was close between primarily him and Rico. Obviously, there were other players that were outstanding as well. I gave it to Rico, just again kind of purely based off of the couple of defensive things from Tendai, and I thought Rico was absolutely outstanding as well. But Tendai, different gravy, and earned man of the match in a lot of people's eyes with that last minute goal as well.
100%. So look, where does that leave us after the game? So at the minute we're second in the table. That still sounds mental. That still sounds insane to me. Second in the table, we are 2 points ahead of Bradford, who do have a game in hand over us. But I think this is the number that we were discussing previously before we came on air. The number that matters, I think, to us at the moment, we are 11 points clear of 7th in the table. Can we get excited?
Silly.
Can we get excited yet?
No. Look, with that, I've said before on the podcast, off the podcast, and I'll say it again. At the moment, until we get to, I'm going to say Easter, because I think Easter is the start of the running, and it is every year, no matter what week Easter is in. I just always feel like that's the turning point where you then really start looking at the running. Until it gets to the Easter weekend, I'm not caring about the gap to first. I'm not caring about the gap in automatics, or to third, or to fourth. I'm only caring about that gap to 7th, because I just want to see us get playoffs now. And to be 11 points clear at this point of the season, bearing in mind a couple of years ago when we just finished outside the playoffs, I think we were 18 points behind at this stage of the season, weren't we? Going into the first FA Cup first round weekend, or 15 points or 18 points behind playoffs, and obviously we only just missed out on the last day. this is ours to give away in terms of playoffs.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening. I see me getting a lot more excited as the rest of the season goes on. But for now, just as a way to kind of keep myself grounded, it's the only gap I'm looking at.
Yeah, so I will mention that in our group chat, Emily brought up a question the other day that if you'd have asked us this, at the start of the season, we would have laughed at you. But the question was asked, if we failed to finish in the top 6, would you be disappointed? Given the context of where we are, I would be devastated if we finish outside the top 6. Because we've just had the most ridiculous start to the season. Like, there will probably be a dip in form. Like, let's be honest. I'd be happy to be proved wrong here, but we can't go on another 17 game unbeaten run like we did, a couple of seasons ago, can we? I mean, can we?
No. Look, we're gonna lose games between now and the end of the season. That is 100%. Going to happen. There's going to be bumpy times, and there was a question in our Patreon Discord earlier on that just simply asked the question: at what point do we stop enjoying this and start
worrying,
pooping ourselves every time we're going to Sincil Bank on a Saturday afternoon? And I think Gaz immediately replied with, "Now." Wow. For me, it's not. For me, I'm just still enjoying the high. But I know that as soon as that January transfer window closes, then that's like the first part, the beginning of the end. And then, like I say, for me, Easter is always the big one. But it's weird, actually, with that. Just want to touch on that with the January transfer window and just moving ever so slightly away from the Peterborough match. Obviously, there's so many rumours that are thrown around. There's always conversations about when, if a player is now available, a big name player, a small name player, but a former player, anything like that. Any player who is now available or looks available in any way, shape or form, people want to talk about it. They want to talk, would it be a potential option? Is it a potential rumour? And I totally get that in the fact that there is always an excitement that builds around transfer windows. When you play Football Manager or Championship Manager, FIFA, whatever it is, whatever football game takes your fancy, what's the most exciting part of that save? It's the transfer windows. It's the bit that everybody enjoys. It's the bit that everybody loves. But at the moment, I'd even forgotten that the transfer window had opened on the 1st of January. Normally, every year I'm saying, instead of Happy New Year, I'm turning text messages saying Happy Transfer Day. Happy opening of the transfer window, that sort of a thing. But instead, this year, I was saying Merry Boxing Day instead of Merry Christmas because I'm excited by the football. I'm not excited by the transfer window. I will be if we make any signings, of course, but I'm excited by the fact that we get to go to Sincil Bank week in, week out at the minute and see us play some great football, get some great results and turn over teams like Peterborough who, used to be our bogey team. Last 3 results of 5-1, 3-0 and 5-2 kind of say otherwise. But those are the moments, like the Cardiff game before Christmas, like obviously, like I said, this Peterborough match. There's just so many exciting moments at the minute and just enjoy the ride.
Yeah, it's mental at the minute because I just normally going into the window, you think we need something. We're Lincoln City. We need a striker. We've always needed a striker going into a window. I don't think we do this time around. Anybody that we bring in, it's just a bit of gravy at the minute. Like we've got such a strong squad. We're getting goals from all over the pitch, and I understand the discussions around. We need somebody to replace Collins. We need somebody to get the goals that James Collins would get. However, I don't think I've ever seen a Lincoln City side totally reliant on having a striker that scores 20 goals a season. We've never been that team that relies on one person to score. Like, I think last season or the season before, I think every outfield player that had played at least once had scored. Mm-hmm. We get goals from all over the pitch. We're not completely reliant on a single player. So, yes, it's obviously crap that Colo's out injured for the rest of the season, but I'm not clamoring to have a replacement for him because we've got players in the in the squad at the moment that can do that, and they can we can have they can have an impact. I'm not saying to the same extent, but Yeah, I mean, if we suddenly start losing players that have been getting the odd goal here and there, at a rate of knots, then I'll be worried. But right now, yeah, I just think we're looking good, and we don't need anything. But if something comes up, then sure, they'll probably take the opportunity. Speaking of those opportunities, we obviously had a couple of loanees that have gone back. Three of them in total have left the club this week. Dexter Lembakisa, who we kind of knew would be going back anyway because he was only here till January. Finn Barbrook, who we, following our chat with Jez, he basically confirmed that he was going to be going back. And Frankie Okoronkwo has gone back to Everton to immediately be loaned out to a Doncaster Rovers side that also re-signed Hakeeb Adelican today. That was confirmed literally as we went on air, Charlie. So I couldn't.
Right, there we go then.
Couldn't mention that a bit earlier on. But yeah, the only thing that I can think of with those going back, I just think a body to replace Frankie would be a sensible option. Again, not clamoring for it because Frankie was okay. He wasn't setting the world on fire. He wasn't crap. He was all right. He was a utility player, but that's about it.
Well, yeah, absolutely. So obviously Dexter Lembakisa was a short-term loan anyway. So, that happened. And also Jez said on the transfer deadline day show back in the summer that it was a move that they, a player that they've tracked and had on various shortlists and all that before, but a loan deal only became possible very, very late on in the window. If you remember correctly, we didn't even actually announce the signing until about 2 hours past the deadline because it was a bit of a clamour to kind of get all the paperwork done on time and media responsibilities came after for that. So that one, obviously not surprised. Finn Barbrook, again, Jez had said on the show with you and Gaz a couple of weeks ago, a month ago, whenever it was, that was likely to happen. Finn Barbrook was going to go back. Realistically, with Tom Bailey's getting injured, we probably would have seen at least a sub appearance from Finn Barbrook. However, because he had already played for Ipswich at the start of the season or been an unused substitution in the Championship, it then meant that he wouldn't have been able to play for another team for the second half of the season. So obviously, exactly as he had said on the show, they came to an agreement and went, look, we're not going to ruin the second half of his season just so that he can be an unused sub on our bench. So huge credit to the club for that one. So again, not surprising. Frankie, really pleased for him that he's got himself another move. I actually quite like Frankie. I thought that he did kind of give us something. I quite liked him when he did play. I thought that there's a player in there. It's kind of just about unlocking potential. If I was saying this to Ben before we came on air, if he was one of our young players, I would simply be sat here saying, give him time. Yeah. He's a lone player. He's a lone player. We don't have the time to give him. Another club might. I don't know what his contract situation is at the end of the year. Who knows? He could have a decent spell with Doncaster and then stay at Doncaster. And you know what? Fair play to him, all the best. But we didn't have the time to give him more opportunities here and to be able to kind of help him develop into the player that, like I said, I think there is a bit of potential in there. But quite frankly, it doesn't matter to us now, does it? In terms of a replacement, I do think that if we were to make a signing, it would be somewhere in those kind of forward areas, someone that can play across those front positions. Also got to bear in mind, Rico is out of contract in the summer. Now, I'm not saying that Rico goes. There's plenty of rumours always circulating about that when you go into the last kind of 6 months of a player's contract. But that could then be, another big player that goes down. I don't expect us to be buying a Rico replacement this window. But the question is are we going to look to bring in, and again, I'm for the record, I'm very much hoping he gets another contract here. I am praying that that's what happens and we do sign him up and he does sign. But, just worst case scenario, a situation. Is it that do we look to bring in a loan forward, somebody like a Frankie Okoronkwo in that just to be an extra body? Or do we look to bring in somebody a little bit younger? Like when we brought Ben House in January, if I'm not mistaken. We brought Anthony Scully in when he from West Ham. That was a January window signing. So is it going to be something like that that's a little bit younger that we're hoping to maybe give more opportunities to? Who knows?
I think a loan would be the most sensible option at this point, because we don't know where we're going to be next season. Obviously, we know where we'd like to be next season. So, yeah, I think a loan would be the sensible option. One player who probably won't be replacing Frankie Okoronkwo, and we will touch on this briefly because I'm aware that we are pushing time, is JJ McKiernan. Obviously, a bit of a forgotten man, of an imp. Although it did catch Chris out the other day, but not me, because I was watching the podcast.
It didn't catch me out either.
Yeah, because when Gaz said a Lincoln City owned player,
so obvious. It's JJ, so obvious.
Yeah. But JJ McKiernan's had an interview with Burton's website, which feels like it's not the best move in terms of PR for him. I'll give you some choice quotes from the interview. Where was it? Things went sour at Lincoln, and that's when I came here. Lincoln wanted me to fight for a place, but I wanted to be here at Burton. It's like, okay, you wanted to come back and fight for a place in a team that might be chasing for promotion. And they wanted me to play in the middle as a number 6, but that's boring because you're kind of stood there waiting for the ball. I don't think I've ever seen anybody burning a bridge this spectacularly, apart from that bit in The Simpsons when Homer's driving the golf cart over the bridge to the power plant and throws the match behind him. Because this just feels incredibly dense from JJ's part. Like, does he honestly expect... He's still got 2 years on his contract here. Does he honestly expect that this is or does he honestly think that this is a good look for him and that he will be able to have this conversation, in public at Burton, and it not get back to people at the club, and then them go, cool, all right, well, he said that it soured here and he wanted to be at Burton. And I can't see him having a future at Lincoln City.
I've also never seen Conor McGrandles play that 6 or 8 role and just stand there waiting for the ball to come to him.
That's very true. That is very true. That is very true.
Or even in his few matches, or Tom Bayliss because I think at the start of the season when we were talking about JJ before he went to Burton, we were talking about what kind of a role could he play. There was a conversation between would it be in that kind of a 10 role or would it be, in that kind of Tom Bayliss role next to Conor McGrandles, and that was the conversation. I mean, like I said, if he thinks he can just stand there when he's playing in that kind of slightly further back role, I'm probably quite glad that he's not playing. But no, look, a stupid interview to give. Like, I would totally get it if he just went into an interview and spoke really highly about Peterborough, about Burton.
Yeah.
And people were taking that the wrong way. I would actually defend the player then, because I say, do you know what? Half the time, these media things, they're probably going to twist it slightly anyway to use your words to kind of big themselves up and not really care about the Lincoln side of it. But in this, he has, flat out said some not great things about his time here. And, we are still his parent club. So, he's also on a 4-year deal, which is certainly going to make for an interesting summer. Very, very much doubt that he has a future here now after those comments, to be fair. Whether he would have or not anyway, if we went up, I think it would have been almost certain that he would have been moved on. But, I was actually quite looking forward to him coming back at some point and playing. And it would now be very, very sour if he did, just to use his own words against him.
Indeed. But right, well, that is probably going to do us for the episode. I could quite happily sit and watch the entirety of the Posh game over again. Well, maybe 70 minutes of the Posh game all over again. Just kind of ignore those first 25 minutes. But what an absolutely superb victory for the Imps. Like I say, 13 from 15 over the Christmas period just feels ridiculous. It feels greedy. It feels fantastic, let's be honest. I think we're going to be back to the normal podcast schedule after this one. Sunday will be the next one, because obviously we don't have a game for a couple of weeks. So I think we're probably just grateful to not have back-to-back podcasts and previews and write-ups and all the rest of it and everything else that's going on. Just thank you again to everybody that's tuned in and watched everything so far. We did go past 2,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is fantastic. Thank you everybody who's subscribed, and thanks for Gaz for being nice about us the other day as well.
He was, wasn't he? That was so lovely.
Yeah, he was.
I was really shocked. I almost fell off my chair.
Well, it's like Chris said. He's done the nice bits in the early days of. In the early days of January, so he doesn't have to.
It's only because he knows that we've got a post-Christmas meetup in the works, and then he can just be an utter bastard to us all on that night instead. Indeed.
So, right, that is going to do us. Look, thank you again for joining us, guys. We will see you again on Sunday. I think it's going to be a bit of a Q&A on Sunday, so make sure you're about to get your questions in. I don't know if we're going to take questions from social media, because I don't think we're on social media that much anymore, but if we are, keep your eyes peeled. But until then, up the imps.
Up the imps.